In the heart of a cursed forest, dark magic awakens, an orc god thought lost to legend. His undead army sweeps across the world, leaving cities in ruins. Even the greatest heroes, Superman, Hulk, Thor, and Iron Man, fall one by one, powerless against his might. As hope fades, Superman makes a desperate choice to help humanity survive. The final confrontation leads him straight into the hands of Thanos, where the fate of the world will be decided. The wind tore through the cursed forest, carrying a chill that gnawed at every living soul. Deep in its shadows, a glowing fissure split the earth, spilling dark energy into the sky. From the rift emerged a figure of terrifying power, the Orc God, reborn and alive, his eyes blazing green with the fire of vengeance. His laughter rolled through the forest like thunder, shaking trees and the ground alike. Every creature, every soldier, every soul in the vicinity knew one truth. A god had returned, and nothing would survive his wrath. Miles away, the world trembled. Cities quaked, skyscrapers bent, and power grids died as tremors spread across continents. Reports flooded in. Soldiers missing, entire villages destroyed, forests set aflame by unseen hands. Humanity's greatest defenders mobilized instantly. Superman soared through the skies, cape flaring, eyes scanning for the epicenter. Hulk smashed through collapsing buildings, roaring in defiance, while Thor summoned lightning that split clouds above. Iron Man's suit gleamed as he fired repulsors, scanning for the Orc God's army. But no preparation could save them. The Orc God's army advanced with terrifying precision. Skeletons, twisted beasts, and towering orc warriors fused with dark magic. Every step sent tremors through the earth. Every swing of their weapons left heroes staggering. Superman's fists collided with the lieutenants of the Orc God, sending them crashing into trees. Hulk leapt atop a bridge, smashing hordes of undead soldiers, yet more emerged endlessly. Thor's hammer cleaved through enemies, but magic animated them faster than he could destroy. Iron Man's lasers tore tunnels through the horde, yet each blast was countered by reinforcements. The Orc God observed with detached amusement, his grin cruel. A sweep of his clawed hand summoned a storm of black energy, ripping through the hero's defenses. Thor staggered, his hammer sparking. Hulk roared in frustration, swinging wildly at regenerating foes, and Iron Man's suit warned of imminent overload. Superman charged the Orc God directly, smashing into him with all his might. Their collision shattered the forest floor, sending splinters flying. Yet even Superman felt the overwhelming power. The Orc God's magic intertwined with strength, strategy, and near-divine cunning. Hours passed like minutes. Heroes, battered and exhausted, were driven to the brink. Thor's hammer was cracked, Hulk's body bleeding and scarred, Iron Man's suit in shambles. Superman, bruised but unbroken, realized brute strength alone wouldn't save the world. The Orc God's army regenerated endlessly. Each attack predicted and countered. The forest itself seemed alive under his command, roots ensnaring legs, shadows striking unexpectedly. The strategy was simple. Crush the heroes, annihilate hope. Hulk was the first to fall, sent crashing through a mountain ridge by a massive blow. Thor tried summoning lightning, but dark energy surged through him, forcing him down. Iron Man, attempting a final aerial assault, was ensnared by chains of shadow energy and pulled into the Orc God's grasp. Superman stood alone, heart pounding, knowing the battle would be decided soon. Cities burned, oceans churned, skies darkened, and the Orc God's laughter echoed, the death knell of the world. Superman clenched his fists, wings of energy sparking around him for one last push. Even he knew the truth. Victory was impossible here. The Orc God was too powerful, his army too vast. The only chance left for humanity lay in a desperate gamble. If brute force could not defeat him, maybe strategy and sacrifice could. As the ground shattered beneath him again, the Orc God loomed over Superman, a mountain of darkness and power. His eyes burned, grin widening, and he whispered ancient words older than the world. A pulse of dark energy surged outward, flattening the battlefield, leaving Superman staring into the abyss of inevitable defeat. Then, Superman made his choice. The world could not win this battle today. He would retreat, regroup, and place humanity's survival above all else. With a burst of speed, he left the battlefield, leaving chaos, screams, and dying heroes behind. Hulk, Thor, and Iron Man fell under the Orc god's unstoppable force. Superman's destination was clear. Another power, a force unimaginable and unstoppable, might still save the world. He raced toward Thanos, the Mad Titan, knowing the fate of humanity rested on this desperate alliance. The forest fell silent, except for the Orc god's laughter echoing through the ruins. Cities lay in ash, armies shattered, and the world trembled under darkness. Superman sped across continents, the last hope for humanity, determined to strike a blow against a foe no mortal or hero could stop. Every second counted. Failure was not an option. Humanity's survival depended on him. Superman cut through the sky, faster than sound, leaving behind smoldering cities and shattered battlefields. The Orc god's devastation was everywhere, forests reduced to ash, oceans boiling under unnatural storms, mountains crumbling. He had witnessed the fall of Hulk, Thor, and Iron Man. The weight of failure pressed down on him, but there was no time to despair. Humanity's survival depended on every decision he made. Each second mattered. Far in space, the Mad Titan waited. Thanos, atop a jagged asteroid, the Infinity Gauntlet glinting ominously, regarded Superman with calm amusement. "You come to me after your world is already burning," he said, his deep voice echoing. "Why should I care for mortals?" Superman's eyes narrowed, determination burning bright. "Because if we fail, nothing will remain. No cities, no people, no heroes. The Orc god is unlike anything we've faced. He's a god, and his army is unstoppable. I cannot do this alone." Thanos tilted his head, considering. Bold, desperate. Perhaps both. My power could rival him, yes, but it is not without risk. One misstep, and all is annihilated, including your precious world. Superman's jaw clenched. "I accept any cost. If there's even a chance to save humanity, I'll take it." He had no illusions. Thanos was not a savior, but the Orc god left no alternatives. With a slow, deliberate motion, Thanos raised the Infinity Gauntlet. Portals of shimmering energy tore open across space, rippling like fractured mirrors. This power can amplify your strength, bend life and space itself. But the cost will test your essence, your morality. Superman nodded, resolve unwavering. "Then do it. Humanity depends on it." Energy surged into him, a cosmic force unlike anything he had ever felt. Strength beyond comprehension, speed faster than light, senses attuned to every corner of the earth. He was no longer just a hero. He was a weapon, yet the burden of responsibility weighed heavier than ever. Back on Earth, the Orc god sensed the shift. His attention snapped toward Superman's absence, but his army continued their relentless march. Cities burned, oceans churned, forests turned to ash, and the undead hordes pressed onward. Mountains collapsed under the weight of his advance, rivers boiled, and the skies bled unnatural colors. Even the military's most advanced weapons were powerless against his dark magic. Hulk groaned beneath rubble, battered but alive. Thor struggled to rise, his broken hammer useless, yet his spirit unyielding. Iron Man's armor smoldered in ruins. Without Superman, the hero's defense faltered. Civilization teetered on the edge of annihilation. The Orc god's laugh rolled across continents, a sound that froze hearts and shattered courage. "Your champions fall, and still you cling to hope? Pathetic mortals. Bring me their champion." His army surged, endless and unstoppable. Every step sent tremors through the world, every movement warping reality itself. In space, Superman readied himself. Infused with Thanos' cosmic might, he now possessed power that rivaled the Orc god himself. He clenched his fists, determination blazing, as he surveyed the earth below. Humanity's last hope rested on his shoulders, and failure was not an option. He could feel the approaching storm, a confrontation inevitable, a battle that would decide the fate of the world. He would face the Orc god head-on, wielding power that could either save or destroy everything. The stakes were absolute. Superman whispered to himself as he dove toward the planet. "For humanity, I will not fail." The roar of the Orc god echoed below, but now Superman was ready. The world had fallen to darkness, heroes were broken, and death reigned across the lands. Yet one final force, powered by desperation, hope, and Thanos' might, would challenge the god of destruction. The stage was set. The countdown to the ultimate battle had begun. Every second mattered. Every life depended on what was about to happen. Superman's eyes blazed as he hurtled toward the Orc god, the last hope for a world on the brink of annihilation. The earth trembled beneath the Orc god's steps. Mountains shattered, rivers boiled, and cities crumbled to ash as his army of undead orcs and twisted beasts surged across the continents. Humanity's resistance was shattered, scattered into pockets of desperate survivors. Hulk, Thor, and Iron Man had fallen, broken and defeated, their bodies buried beneath rubble or smoldering ruins. The world was his, and yet the Orc god's eyes glimmered with hunger. He sought the final champion, the one who could challenge him, Superman. High above the planet, Superman hovered, infused with Thanos' cosmic might. His vision swept the ruined lands, assessing the scope of destruction. He could feel the Orc god's power, a living, breathing force that warped reality itself. Cities were decimated, skies burned in unnatural colors, and the air was thick with the stench of death and magic. The Orc god's army was limitless, each wave of soldiers replenished by dark sorcery. Superman's jaw clenched. To face him, he would need every ounce of strength, every spark of strategy, and every iota of Thanos' cosmic power. Descending toward the battlefield, Superman's speed created shockwaves, scattering crumbling debris and leaving the Orc god's minions reeling. The Orc god lifted his massive claw, and a pulse of dark energy erupted, sending shockwaves that flattened everything in a mile radius. Superman met it head-on, his body glowing with the infused power of the Infinity Gauntlet. He smashed through the wave of destruction, scattering the undead horde like autumn leaves in a storm. The Orc god's laughter echoed across the ruined earth. So, the mortal returns, wielding power borrowed from a titan. Pitiful. He stepped forward, the ground cracking under his weight, eyes blazing green fire. With a swipe of his hand, mountains crumbled, rivers boiled, and shadows coiled into serpentine forms that lunged at Superman from all directions. Superman retaliated, his fist colliding with one of the massive Orc generals. The force of the strike sent shockwaves across the ruined cityscape. Yet the Orc god was patient, anticipating every move. Your strength is meaningless, hero. You fight against eternity itself. Shadows surged, striking like lightning, forcing Superman to dodge at speeds that blurred his form. In the midst of battle, Superman unleashed blasts of energy, powered by the gauntlet, tearing through waves of undead orcs. Entire battalions disintegrated under his strikes, but for every one he destroyed, two more appeared. The Orc god's magic was infinite, relentless, unstoppable. Each attack seemed designed not to kill, but to break the spirit of the hero. Superman's mind raced. Even with Thanos' power, brute force would not suffice. He needed a plan, a strategy that could exploit the Orc god's arrogance and overconfidence. He lured the creature toward a canyon, using his speed to manipulate the battlefield, scattering armies and drawing the godlike warrior into a trap. Yet even then, the Orc god anticipated the move, summoning shadow beasts to block every escape route. The ground shook violently as the Orc god roared, a sound that split mountains and shattered the air. Lightning from Thor's remnants flickered across the sky, but even it was powerless against the dark sorcery at work. Superman's fist struck again and again, each collision shaking the planet. Yet the Orc god's laughter never ceased, a constant reminder that victory was far from guaranteed. Then, Superman realized something terrifying. The Orc god had learned. Each tactic, each maneuver, each strategy was countered before it could succeed. The battlefield itself seemed to obey him, shifting, bending, warping, crushing anything that opposed him. Even with the gauntlet's power, Superman felt the crushing weight of inevitability. He could fight, he could strike, but victory might slip forever through his fingers. Despite the odds, Superman's determination burned brighter than ever. For humanity, for the survivors scattered across the globe, he would not yield. He launched into the sky, tearing through waves of the undead horde, heading straight toward the Orc god. The final clash was imminent, a collision of godlike force and cosmic power, a battle that would determine the fate of the world. The Orc god raised his claws, ready to crush the last hope of Earth. Superman's eyes glowed with energy borrowed from Thanos, every fiber of his being charged with cosmic might. The battlefield fell silent, anticipation crackling in the air like a storm about to break. Two forces, one god and one hero empowered beyond comprehension, faced each other across the desolate lands. Every second counted, every move could tip the balance, and the world watched in silence. Superman clenched his fists, soaring toward the Orc god with a roar that shook the heavens. The final confrontation had begun. The sky above the ruined Earth darkened as a ripple of cosmic energy tore through the atmosphere. Superman hovered, glowing with the power of the Infinity Gauntlet, watching as Thanos emerged from a portal, not alone. Behind him, a monstrous army of titans and intergalactic beasts poured through, hulking creatures, armored and bristling with cosmic energy, each one capable of leveling cities with a single strike. Their arrival sent shockwaves across the battlefield, scattering the Orc god's advancing horde. The Orc god turned, green fire blazing in his eyes, fury ripping through him like a storm. "So, the Titan comes at last, bringing his pets to the party," he roared, his voice shattering mountains. "You dare challenge me? I am eternal." Shadows of his army lunged at the intruders, skeletal orcs and twisted beasts, surging to intercept them. Yet the sheer presence of Thanos' army caused ripples of fear even among the undead ranks. Superman streaked forward, energy crackling around his fists. He collided with one of the Orc god's generals, throwing the monster aside and clearing a path for Thanos' forces. Titans roared as they smashed through waves of undead, their combined might creating a shockwave that flattened the nearby cityscape. Cosmic beasts twisted and lunged, tearing apart Orc battalions with brutal efficiency. The battlefield erupted into chaos, magic clashing with cosmic energy, screams and roars filling the air, and the ground trembling beneath godlike force. The Orc god's claws tore through one of Thanos' monsters, ripping it apart midair. "You cannot win," he bellowed, summoning a whirlwind of dark energy that shot towards Superman and the Titan army. Lightning-like shadows struck at everything in range, toppling titans and shattering buildings. But Thanos was prepared. With a sweep of his gauntlet, portals opened beneath the Orc god's feet, summoning cosmic chains that bound him for a fleeting moment. Superman took the opening, striking with a punch infused with infinity power, sending the Orc god crashing into the shattered remnants of a skyscraper. The Orc god rose instantly, fury boiling. "You think mere tricks will stop me?" He swung a claw, scattering titans and tearing through beasts like they were made of paper. His army surged, reconstituting from shadows, and the world seemed to shudder under the pressure of his magic. Even Thanos' monsters faltered, struggling against the relentless tide of dark sorcery. Yet for the first time, the Orc god realized he faced a power not entirely of this world. Superman screamed, flying through the Orc god's defenses at impossible speed, fists glowing with cosmic energy. Each strike disintegrated undead warriors, tore through shadow beasts, and carved paths through chaos itself. Thanos' army, coordinated and relentless, attacked from every angle, forcing the Orc god to split his attention. Mountains collapsed under their combined might, rivers boiled, and lightning clashed against energy blasts in a storm of destruction. The Orc god roared, fury twisting his form. "I am eternal. You cannot." A massive blow from Superman struck his chest mid-sentence, sending him skidding across a cratered city square. Titans leapt, beasts lunged, and the Orc god fought to regain control, realizing that the battle had finally turned into a true war. The scales were shifting. Superman landed, fists glowing, energy radiating outward. "It's not over yet," he shouted. "Together, we can end this nightmare." Thanos' army surged again, their combined power creating a wave of destruction that even the Orc god's magic struggled to counter. Cities trembled under the shockwaves, skies burned with energy clashes, and the world itself seemed on the brink of being reshaped by sheer force. The Orc god's eyes narrowed, realizing that even a god could be challenged when faced with an army unlike anything he had ever encountered. But his grin returned, cruel and unyielding. "Very well," he hissed. Then let the war begin. Shadows twisted, armies surged, and the battlefield erupted into chaos as god, hero, and Titan army clashed with apocalyptic force. The battlefield was a storm of chaos, rubble flying, lightning crashing, and energy blasts tearing through the air. The Orc god towered above all, green eyes burning like molten fire, his army of undead orcs surging endlessly. Yet facing him now were Superman, glowing with Thanos' cosmic power, and the Mad Titan's monstrous army, moving with terrifying precision. Every strike, every roar, every explosion shook the earth itself. Superman darted through the Orc god's defenses, fists blazing with infinity energy. Each punch disintegrated waves of undead, shattered twisted beasts, and forced the Orc god to react. Thanos' army pressed in from every angle, crushing shadows and skeletal warriors beneath their combined might. The Orc god swung his massive claws, tearing through titans and monsters alike. But even he began to falter under the relentless assault. Mountains crumbled, rivers boiled, and the sky split open as energy clashed against magic in a storm of apocalyptic destruction. Superman flew at impossible speeds, striking repeatedly, dodging clawed blows that could have shattered continents. "This ends now," he shouted, channeling every ounce of Thanos' power into a single, cataclysmic strike. The Orc god staggered, green fire blazing, his shadow army reeling from the combined assault. For the first time, doubt flickered across his monstrous face. Titans crashed into him, beasts tore at his limbs, and Superman's energy punches pounded relentlessly. The battlefield shook violently, the earth screaming under the weight of godlike power. And then, with a final, devastating strike, Superman collided with the Orc god midair. The shockwave tore across cities, obliterating the undead horde and shattering the last of his shadow army. Thanos' army slammed into the Orc god simultaneously, cosmic energy and brute strength breaking his defenses. With a roar that split the heavens, the Orc god was thrown back, his massive form crashing into the mountains, smoke and green fire rising in a final, violent explosion. Silence fell over the battlefield. The Orc god was gone, disintegrated into nothingness, his army scattered or destroyed. Humanity's defenders lay battered but alive, the sky clearing as the storm of darkness finally lifted. Superman hovered above the ruins, chest heaving, cosmic energy still radiating from him. Thanos landed beside him, his gauntlet retracting, the monstrous army standing victorious, but silent, their task complete. Superman looked to the horizon, exhausted yet resolute. The world had survived, but at a cost. Cities were destroyed, heroes injured, and humanity had glimpsed the sheer scale of true godlike terror. Yet there was hope. Humanity had endured, and the Orc god's reign of terror had ended. Even as the heroes and titans stood amid the ruins, Superman's gaze hardened. He knew this was only the beginning. Threats of unimaginable power could rise again. But for now, Earth had survived, the Orc god defeated, and a new legend forged. One of heroes, titans, and the last desperate gamble that saved a world from annihilation.